Welcome to Forsyth Business Radio, where local business meets community connection. Broadcasting from beautiful Cumming, Georgia, I am your host, Amanda Pierce. I'm excited to introduce our guest. My new friend, Jeremy Talboy, is in studio. He is the owner of North Georgia Landscape Management. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
So for our listeners who are not connected with you on social and are unfamiliar with your activity in the marketplace, kind of give us the depth and breadth of what you do with your company.
Yeah, so we are a commercial landscape company. We do all things landscape. We are your one-stop shop for all things landscape in Metro Atlanta, and we are here to help. We focus on commercial maintenance contracts. We do a lot of multifamily and HOA contracts. And then additionally, we do all the enhancement work that goes on with that, along with commercial landscape construction. So all your retaining walls, your flat work, your sod, your irrigation, anything and everything outside the walls of the building, that's what we install and maintain.
Give me an example of a project that you're working on or one that you've recently completed.
Yeah, so one of our larger, now we also do a lot of residential design build. So we build pools and patios for homeowners. But on the commercial side, we just did a bunch of retaining walls for all the site work at a new build multifamily apartment complex down in the middle of Atlanta. So all the retaining walls that are holding up these brand new apartment buildings, we built all those. So some of them are 13, 14, 15 feet tall, very long, and have to be structurally engineered and all that. So that's a pretty cool project.
I'm about to nerd out here for a second. Okay, you mentioned that you have to bring the engineers in. So as far as a job like the one you just mentioned, a large retaining wall, I'm thinking of ones here, on McEver Road. They're building some new apartments right here. And that retaining wall, I feel like it's 100 feet tall.
Yeah.
And there's so much earth that it is keeping back. Mm-hmm. So talk to me about the project a little bit in depth. So you would have to source an engineer, or are those something that you have on your team?
We have a whole network of engineers. Oftentimes, the general contractor who's heading up the project will have all that stuff too. But sometimes we have to provide it ourselves. On the residential side, we definitely provide it ourselves. That's a service that we provide. Structural and civil engineers that will help me with all that stuff. And they design it, and we go in and we execute it. And then, you have your inspections from time to time. So
talking about that large retaining wall. Yeah. You're building the earth up. Take me through it. I'm genuinely curious.
Yeah, so you have all your site prep, which will include excavation. You got to excavate down to compacted soil for your footing. And you'll have to dig back into the hillside and move all that earth out of the way. A general rule of thumb is your geogrid, which is a fabric that you put behind the wall, needs to go back into the earth about the same width as the height of the wall. So if it's a 10-foot wall, you need to go back about 10 feet. So you're going to excavate all that. You're going to build your wall, and you're going to put this fabric behind the wall running into the earth, and then you're going to compact all the earth that you brought out. You're going to bring it back in.
So when I see the beautiful pavers that look like they're just, so just placed and layered, and the pavers aren't that thick, there's something far more substantial behind that, because that's just aesthetics, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're talking about the wall block? Yeah. The wall block is the structure, but there's the engineering behind it. Behind it is a lot of drainage. So you're going to have a lot of angular stone, 57 stone, and that allows the hydrostatic pressure not to build up behind the wall and buckle the wall.
Hydrostatic pressure.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay, so it is apparent that you are not only a seasoned vet, but you are very knowledgeable. Take me through your education. Take me through your passion behind this. You mentioned starting your company in 2011. How'd you catch the bug for landscape maintenance and design?
Yeah, so that's actually it's a cool story. It's kind of funny. So I got a history degree. I was a college baseball player. My goal was to be a history teacher and a college baseball coach, or a high school baseball coach. And my last semester of college, I got bit by the entrepreneurial bug. I started watching shows like Shark Tank and The Profit, and I started thinking to myself, I think I want to take a shot at something, building something that's my own, putting my heart and soul into something, and I will rely on having a backup plan of being a teacher and a coach. So I started thinking, I didn't have a whole lot of real world experience. I was a student. I worked in a couple of restaurants, knew I didn't want to start a restaurant. And I just figured somehow I landed on landscape. I just thought that it would be the easiest to learn, to teach myself, again, with no prior experience or industry knowledge with anything. So I told my dad that that's what I wanted to do, and he helped me finance a truck and some equipment, gave me 30 days to make the payment, and lo and behold, I made the payment, and I just kept on trucking. And as we went, I just learned and learned and learned, because again, I wanted something that I could put my heart and soul into. And once I did it and you signed on that dotted line, it became real. It went from like a dream, a pipe dream, to clock's ticking. I was able to make it this far.
So talk about your experience maybe in the first year as a business owner. Talk about having to ride that wave of faith continually and where you are today.
Yeah, so that's a great question. The waves have come throughout, but I'll talk about an experience over the last year or two once we get to that. At the beginning, I was very lucky. I rented my house from my dad, but I had roommates, so I didn't have any rent. All my bills were paid. So I got really lucky in that situation. So my overhead was minimal. We lived on a half-acre lot, no HOA, so I was able to keep my truck there, rented out all this space, actually put a little bit of money in my pocket after the bills were paid. So that is a big factor in why I was able to scale fast, because I was able to reinvest all the dollars back into the company. I had no kids. I wasn't married. So it was kind of low stress at the beginning. It wasn't until I decided to really step on the gas and grow that you start seeing those waves, those peaks and those valleys, when you start having to worry about cash flow and employees.
That's a different feeling, isn't it?
Yeah.
Having to worry about other people on your payroll and if you're going to be able to make that or not.
Yeah, and what you got to understand is it's not just the people on your payroll, it's their whole family too. I mean, you see pictures of them, you see their 2 or 3 kids and their wife, and I'm responsible for all that. So I might have 100 employees, but I got 500 people that are counting on every decision I make. So
the fact that you are invested in each of your employees and their families too, yeah, I think would say sets you apart.
Yeah, I think so too. I always heard horror stories about business owners, and I don't want to be one of those horror stories. I want to be somebody that when people talk about me, when I'm not in the room, it's all positive stuff. So I've always been wired that way. And that's the way I treat all my people. We're one big family. So yeah, I always keep them in mind with everything that I do. But there was some, a really rough time over the last 2 years. It's really good now. Everything's great. But we went through this time where I was having a lot of trouble with cash flow, especially getting into these big commercial projects. It came at the same time where I was buying my building. So I had a bunch of cash reserved, but it was for the down payment. And then, taking on all these commercial jobs, you don't get a deposit. You got to float for anywhere from 30 to 90 days before you get any sort of payment. So I was getting hit from both angles during that time. And paychecks were bouncing and the morale in the office was low. I had bills piling up. I had GCs that I was working for saying, hey, the check's in the mail, right? Mm-hmm. And it'll be there this day, and those days would come and it would just never show up. And it was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that money that was coming was all money I had already spent, right? So I'm just waiting to get reimbursed, and I'm just trying to float through this thing. It got very dark for a little while, but what I did, which is what a lot of people will do, is I immediately just went down to my knees and, closed the door, went to a place, my bedroom or wherever I could just be alone and just talk to God and ask for help. And, especially not like financial help, but help with my brain, with my mental. How do I get through this? Because like I said, I got all these people depending on me and the decisions that I've made. And now I've found myself in a position where I have no money. I'm scraping by to make my payroll in the summertime. My payroll is $50,000 to $75,000 a week, and there's oftentimes I got to pay people on Friday, and on Monday I have $0, or on Thursday I have $0, but it would always show up. And I'm talking about a matter of with 10 minutes to spare type thing. So, I've always been really close to God. I've always been very faithful. But that period of time, which was like a year and a half ago, I got even closer, and it worked. And I talk about it all the time. You have to bet on yourself, but you also have to have faith. Right. So, and for me, it's very important to pray just as hard when things are good as when they're bad, and vice versa, right? Sometimes you're asking for help, and sometimes you're just giving praise, So it's not always easy. I've had to seek out, financing partners and all that stuff. But anytime I need something, I just pray and pray and pray, and the door's open. It's the wildest thing, and I might just barely make it, but I always make it. So the next time things get rough, I don't even sweat it anymore because I know I'm going to make it. So
where do you see yourself in your company in 10 years?
Yeah. So I teeter between, do I want to sell my company and go sit on a beach and relax and be a baseball coach? And, I really would love to teach, but I would love to teach from the perspective that I don't need the money, right? That's why I didn't go into teaching to begin with. And all the teachers out there, we appreciate everything you do. You guys are vastly underpaid. And that's why I didn't do it, because I wanted to take a shot at, again, building something, but the financial aspects. I obviously want to be as wealthy as I could. So I think if I could sell my company and go teach and just not have to worry about the financial side of it, and just, again, put my heart and soul into the students and the craft, and same with baseball. Ideally, I think that's what I want to do. But I teeter on between, do I want to sell the company or do I want to build it into something that my son can take over?
That's what I was going to ask you. Did you have any successors within your 3 children that you might consider?
Yeah, absolutely. My son, he's 7. He's ready.
He's ready.
If
you're going to get him his first truck and his first trailer.
100%. Like I have to. If you look on my LinkedIn, you'll see where he came to work 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago for 2 days. He laid pine straw. He changed tires on a truck, and he mowed all the grass at the office.
Wow.
Yeah. So I deemed him ready. I set him up with Lucas, which is the head of operations. He went through a training course with him, showed him how to use the mower. I put videos on LinkedIn.
Oh my gosh, I'll have to see.
So he came and, he got paid a little bit of money.
Out.
But yeah, I told my wife, if he were to take it over, he's going to start from the bottom. Mm-hmm. He's going to do every job at the company before he gets to the top, because that's what I did. Yeah. I am one of the few people, well, I wouldn't say few people, but when I go sell to clients, I make sure that I use that as a selling point, that I have done every single job. I've worn every hat. I've been the mechanic, sales, billing, answering phones, whatever the case may be. So I'm going to make sure that if that's the route I take, that my son's going to do the same thing, because I think it builds your character.
Yes.
And then, you understand the worth of what you're given. So don't take it for granted. And you
make yourself the most valuable, because there's nothing like, your billing department, someone's got corona and then you can't do anything that day. Yes, you can, because you can sit in any seat.
That's right.
Tell me about who you look to connect with in the marketplace. Who would be a valuable vendor for you? Who do you look to serve? So for anybody out there listening that's in the world of associations that might like your assistance.
Yeah, so my target market is asset managers, property management groups, GCs, anybody that needs any sort of landscape work. So on the maintenance side, it's heavily property managers. Instead of focusing on Atlanta and adding new verticals, I think I'm going to just move to different markets. I'd like to get to Charlotte. We need to get to Athens here pretty quick, down to Macon, Chattanooga, Birmingham, and Nashville, and Orlando, and Destin.
So the Southeast region?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. My first target's, I think it's going to be Athens first, but that's kind of a sub-market. But my first separate market is going to be Charlotte. I took my wife to Charlotte this past September for our anniversary as it was our anniversary trip, but we were kind of scouting at the same time. Mm-hmm. Charlotte's a very interesting little town. It's like a mini Atlanta.
Rich in history, which I'm sure you like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was beautiful. And the thing that stuck with me the most was how clean it is. We stayed right downtown. The smells, all the food that we could smell. At least my experience for 3 days was fantastic. I mean, I wouldn't mind living there, to be honest with you. So I think that's going to be my first satellite market that's not Athens.
Okay. Well, thanks for indulging me in all these facets of conversation. I want to make sure I've given you the chance to share everything as it relates to your business so that we can get that out there. Is there anything that I missed that you'd like to share?
No, that's it. I mean, again, in addition to the commercial side, we also build super awesome 5-star backyards. So if you're looking for a pool or just some sod and some mulch and some irrigation, anything and everything outside the walls of your house we can handle. So if you're just a homeowner that's looking for a residential project, I have 5 in-house landscape designers that will send out to your house. They will spend about an hour with you going over everything, looking at all your problems, and they'll provide you solutions along with a detailed quote, and we can solve everything for you. 5-star backyard, start with us.
Ooh, 5-star backyard. Start with them. Good sizzle. Well, Jeremy, I have enjoyed hosting you today. Thank you for sharing your time, treasure, and talents with our listeners. For those who are curious about you and would like to connect, how can they do so?
Yeah, so www.northgeorgialandscape.com is my website. You can go there. You can look at our portfolios. You can send us a request for any sort of backyard project, front yard project, or commercial maintenance opportunity. On Instagram, we have nglm.landscapes, where I share a lot of my pictures. We also have Georgian Landscape, which is my design build side, and then my personal brand, which is Landscape Tycoon, where I share a bunch of business tips, entrepreneurial tips, and life tips for anybody in the home service industry.
Thank you for joining us today. And as you guys know, you can connect with me at amandapierch.com. And until next time, this is Forsyth Business Radio. If you're interested in learning more about podcasting, community partnerships, guest appearances, or sponsorships available within Forsyth Business RadioX, connect with Amanda at amandapierch.com.